What's going on, guys? Nathan Lombardi here with Lambo Media, and in this segment, I'm joined by a very, very special guest, Jordan Schultz, he's an ESPN insider, joined by his son as well. Jordan, first and foremost, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And how have you been doing during these rather disastrous times?
Thanks for having me, Nathan. Yeah, you know what? This is pretty standard. You know, it's a Tuesday afternoon, and I got my dog and my son right here. So I'm just not able to, have the standard, alone time or be in an office, really.
Right.
But, I really may do, and definitely try to use this time as an opportunity to connect more on a personal level with athletes who are going through the same type of thing. Trying to figure out how to be productive, without games. I mean, now we have NBA back and NFL's gearing up, but baseball. But for a long time, it was just like, let me just reach out to guys and see how everyone's doing and see if I can't, provide some kind of distraction or quality content that maybe you wouldn't get under normal circumstances.
Yeah, most definitely. So you touched up on it a little bit, but what did your day-to-day look like as far as covering sports? What did your day-to-day look like before every sport in the NBA and NHL and the MLB really started kicking back up and started resuming?
Well, before that was I was doing a lot of Instagram lives. Before the playoffs really got going, I had my podcast with CJ, the column, and then just trying to really just, keep contacts and keep my contacts up and stay on the mind of different people. And then also just try to see if I can't, help because, with everything that's been going on in the country, both from a pandemic standpoint and also with everything from a racism standpoint, all the social injustices, I've been trying to do my part. It's hard for me as like a white privileged male to feel like I'm even worthy of talking about some of this stuff because I'm so sensitive to it for those of color. But I also want to be very respectful and I care and I want to make a difference. So I've had a lot of conversations before the game started, and then also now having a lot of conversations with civic leaders to try to understand where they're coming from and how I can help. Education reform is a big thing, and been talking to some school administrators, college deans, trying to understand what they're doing. And all in all, I mean, it's been very difficult for so many people, and I'm very sensitive to that.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I definitely respect you for directing those topics and trying to make an impact on those racial injustices. And like you mentioned, one thing that you really did during these no sports quarantine time was Instagram Lives. How did that whole idea come about?
Well, about a month into the pandemic, so let's say like mid-April, late April, mid-April, I started to get bored. I was getting really bored because I had been watching like old games and highlights, but I was feeling like just everything was so repetitive, and I started thinking to myself like, okay, what do I want to see as a sports fan first? What's the kind of content I want to see? Right. Because there's no live games, and you can only watch so many old games and old footage before you start to feel like you're going to go crazy. So I started thinking about like, just as a fan myself, and that's where the idea came up of, why don't I just start talking to players who are going through the same exact thing that everyone else is going through, and they're stuck at home as well. And why don't I just start asking them about what they're going through psychologically, physically as well, not being able to get into a gym. And so that's where the idea came from. And as I started to have more conversations with guys, the feedback was really positive, both from fans, but also even more importantly from players saying, hey, I really enjoyed that. That was a lot different. Maybe I can come back on. I've had a lot of guys ask if I can come back on again, which is, really cool for me because I would have these conversations all day with them. So I started feeling like this was an opportunity to present a different type of interview that isn't always focused on just the sport itself. Let's go outside the lines a little bit or outside the court and understand the human side of it and tell the athlete's story. So that's basically how it started, and then it's evolved in the sense of now games are going, guys are in training camp or in the playoffs, so it's more basically sport focused, but it's still basically the same concept. And then also from a racism standpoint, trying to talk to guys both of color, not of color, about what they're doing and how they're trying to make a difference as well.
Yeah, most definitely. So Jordan, obviously the NBA playoffs are really getting started now. And with the NBA playoffs being the talk of all sports right now, do you have any bold predictions for this 2020 NBA playoff series or any finals predictions?
Well, I really liked the Clippers before the playoffs started, and I've been incredibly impressed with Dallas, specifically with Luka.
Yep.
Well, I've been super impressed with Luka. I mean, there's really no surprise, but to see what he did without Porzingis in Game 4, the type of triple-double he had, the game winner, the way that he was able to impact the game on a basically gimpy ankle. I mean, everything he does is spectacular. But in terms of so that series has surprised me a little bit, just because of how good I've anticipated the Clippers being. In terms of really big surprises, I've been impressed with Toronto. I mean, you knew that they would be competitive this year, but to defend a title in the way they have without Kawhi is so admirable. I mean, they have guys that nobody wanted. Van Vliet, Siakam, Ibaka was thought to be done. Gasol. It's just remarkable. So I give Nick Nurse a tremendous amount of credit. I would love to see Toronto, just selfishly, Milwaukee again. Yeah. See how Giannis has potentially figured out that Rubik's Cube of defense. Also see how Nick Nurse and Bud would go at it, because Bud's kind of that old school. He's an offensive mastermind, but he doesn't like to make maybe the same level of adjustments. He'll wait longer than Nick Nurse will. Right. And Nick Nurse is that new school, really innovative, both players, coaches in their own way. So I like to see that series again. But I'm excited to see Boston and Toronto, and to see how OG Anunoby and Siakam match up against Tatum and Brown.
Okay, so I'm a big Nuggets guy. Before we started recording, I obviously mentioned that I live here in Colorado. Where do you see the Nuggets going in these 2020 NBA playoffs?
Well, I didn't think they'd be down 3-1. Neither did I. And a big part of that was because Utah doesn't have Bogdanović, who's one of the more underrated two-way players. He's a legitimate second option for them. And, getting Conley back was huge. But Denver, I've been on Denver all year. I mean, they have, on paper, one of the more complete teams. They have a legitimate 1-2 punch. I think not having Gary Harris, especially defensively, has hurt them. But they have so much depth that I thought they'd be able to overcome that. And at least with Utah, I thought this would be a closer series. You go back to even Game 1, where Mitchell had 57 or 62, I think it was. They almost gave that game away. So I do believe that Denver has been probably the most surprising team from a negative standpoint in the playoffs. I think Jokic is fantastic. I mean, I really believe he's a building block. He's a unicorn type of player, and I really do like Jamal Murray. But I'm just so blown away, because also Mike Malone's a very good coach, and for them to struggle the way they have, Mitchell's fantastic. It's more so as a whole containing Utah's offense without Gary Harris. But the way they struggled has been really surprising, and I don't know if to overcome 3-1 in the playoffs is almost impossible, and I don't know if I've seen a more disappointing first round over the last few years.
Yeah, for sure, Jordan. I can definitely agree with you there. To transition away from the NBA
I'm curious, what do Nuggets fans think? Because NBA fans didn't necessarily anticipate this, but I know Nuggets fans have to be really surprised.
None of the Nuggets fans anticipated this, and we all expected us to I wouldn't say blow the Jazz out of the water, but we weren't expecting to be down 3-1 to the Utah Jazz in the first round of the playoffs. So I think we definitely expected to perform a lot better, and we expected our bench to come off hotter, because our bench hasn't been the hottest in the NBA playoffs during this 2020 season. But We just expected to perform better, be more consistency. I think consistency is a big thing for the Nuggets in this series with the Jazz. But I mean, I think that's the big thing.
Well, they're still a very young team.
Yeah.
Very young team.
Yeah.
And the development of Michael Porter. You know, I'm from Seattle, and I grew up with Brandon Roy, and I was his high school coach. And to see Porter develop the way he has is really exciting. I mean, he's going to be that number 3 or even potentially number 2 guy. Maybe he ends up being a real star. But to see him develop this quickly is really exciting. I just would like to see Denver play. I don't know if they're not playing hard enough defensively, but they're just not focused. And it's disappointing because at the beginning of the year they were playing elite defense, and it's just kind of gone down throughout the season.
Right. One thing I was kind of happier to see in these playoffs and towards the tail end of the season, before the playoffs even started in the bubble in Orlando, is towards the beginning of the season, a lot of Nuggets fans were complaining about Michael Porter Jr. not getting enough minutes, Michael Malone not giving him enough minutes, and then towards the tail end of the regular season and even in the playoffs, he's been getting more minutes. So I think a lot of Nuggets fans are happy about that, but we're obviously still not, performing to the level that the Nuggets can. So.
Well, yeah, you think about last year's second round, Game 7, and just there's a lot of respect for that team around the league as like this is one of the teams that has next, and you thought, I just thought we'd see more in the playoffs. And it's not over, but so far it's been disappointing, and we'll have to see with Bol. I mean, I know there's a tremendous amount of excitement with him as well. And if he can even be half as good as the anticipation, then you're looking at a guy that's a real starter in this league. So I'm excited for those 2 young players.
Yeah, most definitely. They definitely have a lot of young talent. And Jordan, you played college basketball through college. How much do you think that benefited you up to this point as far as covering basketball goes? Because you kind of know the ins and outs, and you kind of understand what it's like from the player's perspective as well.
Yeah, well, I thought I was a better player than I was, Nate.
Okay.
So I definitely thought I'd have a better college career. I did play 4 years, so I did play 4 years, but it did help me growing up around elite players in Seattle. I mentioned Brandon Roy. There's countless guys that I grew up playing against that played in the NBA.
Yeah.
All of that has helped me a lot because it's as much as I love football and cover it, I never feel like I know quite as much about the ins and outs and about the X's and O's. And with basketball, I just feel so comfortable talking about it. I always feel like I understand where the athlete's coming from. I just feel like comfortable breaking things down. I'm that much more at ease talking to executives and coaches because of the terminology. I did a thing where I went and basically did a tryout for the D League, and got to experience firsthand like NBA plays, and I took a lot of that with me. And basically now the NBA has evolved a lot over the last like 8 to 10 years from an offense standpoint. It's so much more dynamic now. But basically for me, basketball is still my first love, and it's far and away the sport that I feel most comfortable breaking down.
Okay, most definitely. And let's transition back into Jordan Schultz and covering sports. What did the Jordan Schultz process look like up to the point of getting an opportunity with ESPN, and what did that whole journey look like for you?
Well, for me, Nate, I knew I wanted to be I knew I wanted to get into journalism as a kid. I actually learned basically how to read by reading the New York Times sports section.
Okay.
I was obsessed, and I still am. And sports for me is like the best. It's just the best thing to be obsessed about because it's the best reality TV. It's constantly evolving. You have so many personalities.
Right.
Fans are insane. It covers so many different bases. So after college, even during college, I did some internships and really basically pursued it full on when I graduated in 2009. And it took me quite a while to get into it. I couldn't get a job in the space. And basically, I took a job at a startup, and then eventually about a year after graduation, I got an opportunity at fanhouse.com as like a copy editor.
Okay.
And then about 6 months later, I got into the HuffPost as their sports columnist. And that was like my first big break, if you will. But
Yeah.
The ESPN thing was like, I've been at ESPN almost 2 years now. And for me, that was always the pinnacle of sports journalism. Like I always thought, if I could just get to ESPN, I would have made it. And
Right.
It took so long and so many interviews, and over the years of going to Bristol and meeting with all these smart people, it took so long for me to break in and get that opportunity, even after having some really good stints with Bleacher Report and Yahoo and doing things that I never thought I'd be able to do. To get to ESPN was just, it felt really gratifying because I always wanted to be there.
Yeah. How did you initially find out that you had officially got an opportunity with ESPN, and how ecstatic were you, to take that next big step?
What's crazy is I was actually on vacation when I found out. I got a call saying that they were gonna offer, they were gonna offer me a position, and it also came in conjunction, Nathan, with The Boardroom, which is the show I've done with KD and Rich Hyman over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it came in conjunction as their correspondent, which happened to be with ESPN, The Boardroom. So it all happened at once within a span of, I think, like a few weeks. So I was already really excited and feeling like I had a real shot at the full-time ESPN gig. But I was also like, I didn't want to be greedy. So I was really happy just to have the Boardroom chance. And so when the ESPN call came and I realized that I was going to get a full-time opportunity, I was out of my mind. I don't even think, if I can remember correctly, like I basically didn't even know what to do other than just to celebrate. But I remember, like, I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
And I remember that night I wasn't even like hungry. I was just too excited to eat. It was a really special moment for me, and it's been almost 2 years, and I'm definitely never going to forget that moment, that call.
Yeah, for sure. So like you mentioned a little bit earlier in the interview, you also co-host a podcast with CJ McCollum called the Pull Up Pod. How did that come about?
Yeah, you know what? So this is a great segue into what this business is. It's all about relationships, and I give you a lot of credit at your age for developing these relationships. I mean, I didn't do anything other than basically play basketball when I was your age. I didn't have any. I knew I wanted to get into sports journalism, but I had no concept of how that was going to happen. And I had no relationships. And what you're doing is extremely valuable, and I think it's going to serve you really well. So you should be really proud of that. But for me, the relationship with CJ started years back. A guy I was really close with, a person I'm really close with and have been for a long time is Earl Watson. And Earl was like CJ's vet in Portland. He was an assistant coach as well. And I had asked him about CJ because he seemed like he was really an interesting guy, the journalism major, the fact that he went to Lehigh and wasn't like a 5-star recruit. Everything about him was interesting. And he said, you got to meet him. He's really special. Let me connect you. And we really hit it off early on. And it's, I didn't get to meet him personally, but we were basically communicating a lot throughout the couple years on text and on the phone a little bit. But I was very respectful of the fact that, like, I'm a media member. I still don't know him personally. And for a while, I just thought, like, this is great. I don't want to push it too hard. I don't want to ever make him uncomfortable. And then what happened was I got a call from my former NBC Sports Radio boss telling me that they had hired CJ to do a podcast, and they wanted to have a media person to pair with him.
Okay.
And he knew we had a relationship, and that's where, like, the relationships are so important, because I had so much respect for CJ, and we had gotten to know each other, albeit virtually. And then my old boss, Chris Corcoran, was just the greatest guy, and I kept in touch with him over the years. And when that opportunity came, it was obviously a no-brainer.
When did you and CJ really start that podcast?
We hit our 2-year mark and over 100 episodes. So it was in like April of think April of like 18.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been about 2.5 years, I think.
Okay.
And we've had so much fun with it. The thing about CJ is that because he wasn't so heavily recruited and didn't have these massive offers, and even though he knew he wanted to play in the NBA and he never gave up on that belief, I'm not sure he really thought about other options, and he was really interested in journalism. So he had this crazy passion for it that even surprised me. I knew he was interested, but once I got a sense of his style and the way he was preparing and the way he could connect with people, it made it really easy for me. And I think a lot of guys are really smart, but a lot of guys are also planning on being in the NBA when they're in high school.
Yeah.
And that gives them a big leg up in the sense of they're preparing to be a pro when they're like 15, 16 years old. With CJ, I think he was preparing to be a pro as a professional basketball player, but also as a media member. Like, he legitimately, I feel like, was like, I'll be a pro basketball player, but I'm also preparing as a media member in case that doesn't work out, or in case I don't make enough money, whatever it is. And he did it.
Okay. And to wrap it up, Jordan, let's wrap it up with a quick rapid fire. And to kick it off, favorite food?
I'm a food guy. I'm a pretty big guy, and I love food. I would say number one food ever would probably be pizza, like gourmet pizza. But pasta and sushi, second and third.
New York City, you could imagine it's
pizza.
It's
unreal. It's unreal. And I haven't been home. I really missed it. I miss the pizza.
Okay. Favorite NBA team?
That's tough because I root more for my guys. I never really root against anybody. Yeah. Obviously I love Portland. I do love Portland, but I don't know if I have a favorite team. There are certain teams and guys I really, really root for though. And CJ's one of my, I love Devin Booker and I think Phoenix is going to be really exciting. I love Tyler Hero in Miami. Yeah. I love, there's so many good young players and so many good young guys that it's really easy to get behind them.
Yeah, this one might be a little bit tough given the fact that you just said that. But favorite NBA player, if you don't have a specific one, just maybe like a top 3 or top 5.
So CJ, and I'm not just being biased. I do love CJ.
Yeah, I got you.
KD, for sure. KD, for sure. Devin. Then it gets really tough because if I'm going to name 2 more, I'm going to leave out a lot of good guys.
Yeah.
Man. I'm literally going through rosters now in my head. Those would probably be my top 3.
Yeah.
But I would have to add Dame.
Yeah.
I just love that dude. And I'll have to think of one more. Give you like the round 5 list. Oh, I'll go with Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I know we talked about him, and not to anger Nuggets fans, but I just think what he's doing, the way he plays, the fearlessness, is really admirable, and he's special. Oh, and I'm gonna add Luka.
No worries. Okay.
Bonus Luka. Gotta have Luka in there. Yeah. So there's 6.
Okay. And to wrap it up, favorite thing to do outside of covering sports?
Well, you saw my little guy. I'm going to take them to the park in a minute here. So, kids, eating, for sure eating, and I'm a big movie guy too. I read. I'll definitely read a lot, but like I do love watching movies. So I'm very low key, man. Like, love to be at home, kids. I do love suits. I'm a big suit guy. So I like looking at fabrics and being, pretending that like I know what I'm talking about. Wine is another one, big wine guy. So, I have a few different things.
Okay, for sure, Jordan. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to make this interview happen. I really appreciate it. Best of luck in the future, and we'll for sure stay in touch.
Yeah, you got to tell me, though, your favorite 3 players. And
okay. I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, Denver native. I probably gotta go Jokic at number 1. I gotta go. I like Luka too. Luka's a big one for me. Luka at 2, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then 3. I know people might hate on me for this because they might call me a bandwagon, but the way LeBron James plays, just his passion for the game, his grit, his grind, it just like he never gives up. He's pushing this far.
You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Jamal.
He's gonna be up there, but I decided he's definitely top 5.
Can Jamal be the second best player on a championship team? You really believe in him?
Yeah.
And you're hoping Porter becomes number 3, the third guy.
Yeah, hopefully Jokic, Jamal, and then Porter. Yeah, up there.
It could be Porter. Porter could end up being the best.
Yeah, for sure. He has so much potential; it's insane.
He's freakish. He's incredibly talented. Yeah. And are you a Rockies Avalanche the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm a big Rockies guy. I don't pay too much attention to hockey, so I'm not a big Avalanche guy. But there's no one else to root for when I'm a Colorado native, and I don't pay any attention to hockey. So
yeah.
If I
you have to say Rockies.
Yeah, I like the Rockies. Unfortunately, they got off to a hot start, 11-2.
I saw that. Yeah, they're dead now.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, it's a pleasure. If I can ever help you, I think I'm not sure you'll need it, but I'm here. You're doing great work, and
most definitely
excited for what your future holds.
Thank you, Jordan. I look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, buddy. You too. Take care.